What is up? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, however you're watching, however you're following the Ben Garcia Show, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, for free on the iHeartRadio app, or you're putting a face to the voice and you're watching on YouTube. We appreciate that as well. We just continue to grow. It's been amazing. It wouldn't be done without the support of my listeners, I would hate to call them fans. I'm going to say that they're not fans yet. They're still on the fence. They're still deciding, do I like this guy? Do I not like this guy? Either way, we appreciate you tuning in to the Ben Garcia Show. If you're watching on YouTube, maybe even if you're just listening on a podcast platform, don't forget to like, share it, subscribe it, tell a friend about the Ben Garcia Show. Maybe your long-lost cousin loves hearing some man in Phoenix ramble about sports. I am here for it. I love it. But without further ado, let's get into our top story of the show. I want to get started off here on the Ben Garcia Show with the Caitlin Clark WNBA All-Star festivities just happening, just wrapping up. The All-Star game, the three-point shootout, the skills competition, all the festivities that have been taking place for the WNBA over the weekend, with them coming to a close. I believe the WNBA missed a prime opportunity to seize the moment. We are in the dead period of the sports calendar. Whether it's the NFL, whether it's the NBA, whether it's the dog days of Major League Baseball, which I love, but even I don't talk about on a day-to-day basis. It's mostly basketball and football, pretty much only those two things. And the WNBA had a chance to seize the moment over the weekend. Grasp every free agent sports fan that has nothing really going on right now a chance to grab them and invite us in to their sport. But they missed that opportunity. Caitlin Clark not participating in the three-point shootout was a monstrosity on its own. Caitlin Clark not participating in the festivities that wasn't the All-Star game, maybe it was the skills competition or the three-point shootout, but Caitlin Clark not participating in any of the fun All-Star festivities that were outside of the All-Star game was a monstrosity, was awful, and was a horrible look for the WNBA. You will not find a bigger Caitlin Clark supporter than me. I've defended her from Angel Reese. I've defended her from the nonsense WNBA old heads who have been neglecting towards her. But this is a really bad look for not just Caitlin Clark, but the WNBA. Caitlin Clark was invited to participate in the three-point shootout. I'm not sure if she was invited to join in the other festivities. But here's what we do know. The All-Star festivities, whether it's in the NFL, which is the Pro Bowl, or the NBA or the Major League Baseball, it is a chance to showcase your stars and star power. And they had that opportunity with Caitlin Clark. What is Caitlin Clark known for? The three-point shot. She plays like no one else in the WNBA. She is not a back-to-the-back big. She's not as fundamental. She's a lot of flash, a lot of sizzle. I've said before, she reminds me of the female Steph Curry. Dynamic passing, gets in passing lanes, getting steals. Always an underrated steal, a person, if that's the way you want to put it, like Steph Curry was back in his heyday. And the three-point shot, stepping back from the logo and draining it. So her chance to showcase those talents, mainly the three-point shot, and not taking the opportunity to seize the moment was a terrible decision. It was an awful decision. The WNBA is going on about a month-long break for the Olympics because they have all their stars going overseas to France and playing in the Olympics. Caitlin Clark coming out and saying she just needed a break. I get it. We all need a mental reset, but it's not like she's not going to play or she didn't play in the All-Star game. She played in that. That's what Caitlin Clark did. It wasn't just the three-point shootout she didn't participate in. She's still playing in some of the festivities. She had a month off I get it. You need to break Caitlin Clark. But this was the opportunity to grab all the free agent sports fans with the NFL and NBA on hiatus right now, take them by the heart, and bring them into your sport. And the WNBA and Caitlin Clark failed to do that. Fair or not, Caitlin Clark has on her shoulders the WNBA. And just like LeBron James did and Michael Jordan did, it is the heaviest is the head that wears the crown. You have to wear that with pride, and you have to understand you're just going to have to do more than everyone else. And the three-point shootout has really felt like it's overtaken every other all-star event in any sport. The NFL's all-star Pro Bowl activities are terrible. The MLB's home run derby has started to become kind of the same thing, rinse and repeat every year, and now their star players aren't really joining into it. And then you have Caitlin Clark. The three-point shootout. That has become the apex of all-star weekend activities, regardless of the sport. Her not taking part of that, her not having a chance to win it, was a bad look for the WNBA. The WNBA is more or less a startup company in the sports world's eyes. I understand it's been there forever. But if you ever want your company to become the apex number one seed, become a Fortune 500 company, you have to work like a dog. Be a busy bee. You have to pay all your dues now to reap the benefits later. And Caitlin Clark had to do that. She's about to get a month off. She's about to get a full month off because of the monstrosity that was not having her in the Olympics. She could have had a huge break off. I get it. We all need time off. And she could have had a month, and she still played in the All-Star game. But not being able to showcase your talents to everyone was just a miss. Because you want to know why? I didn't watch a second of the skills competition. I didn't watch a second of the three-point shootout in the WNBA. Because I more or less do not care about the participants in it. I care about Caitlin Clark. I care about Angel Reese. We already lost Cameron Brink, who was also in that ladder of superstar rookies that were getting people into the sport. Those two cannot take days off, especially Caitlin Clark. We're already down a player. And with the month off, I just don't buy the I need a break excuse. When you shoulder the WNBA or any company on your shoulders, you have to be willing to go above and beyond everyone else always to continue to prop that company, organization up, or league into one of the best companies, leagues, or whatever it is in any sport. That is her responsibility. And now when you compound this with the fact that Caitlin Clark will not be in the Olympics, not only did I not watch the three-point shootout or any of the all-star festivities on Friday night, I'm not going to watch the Olympics because there's no Caitlin Clark. Get over yourself, WNBA. Get over yourself, Women's USA Basketball. This is a chance to get eyeballs on your sport, on your company, on your business, and you failed twice. Not getting her in the three-point shootout was a horrible business move, a ridiculous business move, potentially the worst business move you could do. And you double down on the idiocracy, on the idiocy of not having Caitlin Clark in the Olympics and then not playing in the three-point shootout, not taking part in the festivities. You are going to lose the casual fan for a month, which is an eternity in the sports world. And not showcasing your talent as much as you can and get as many eyeballs in front of the television set to watch your stars because A, you needed a break, or B, she was undeserving in being in the Olympics. Undeserving was horrendous. A terrible business decision. And it's why the WNBA continues to struggle to get eyeballs, even with a superstar like Caitlin Clark at the helm. It's idiot decisions like this that ruin companies, that ruin leagues, that ruin sports. I care about stars. I care about superstars. And Caitlin Clark, fair or not, whether she wants to or not, carries the WNBA on her shoulders. And not being in the three-point contest because you needed a break when you're about to get a full month off for the Olympic break was insanity. And compounding that with the fact that she will not be on the Olympic team because of some ridiculous, undeserving narrative that people say Caitlin Clark isn't deserving to be on there was a business mistake, and it could cost them a ton of eyeballs on their sport during a hiatus where there's no NBA, where there's no NFL, and you have a chance to capture the heart of all the Caitlin Clark fans, and you completely failed at that, not having her in the three-point contest, not having her in the skills competition, and not having her in the Olympics. Just pure insanity and a huge swing and a miss by the WNBA and Caitlin Clark as well. This was another story that broke through during the week, and I thought it was interesting. It's something I talked about earlier, but Russell Westbrook is on his way to the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets were seen as a team that were likely to repeat this year in the NBA Finals, but what people always forget is the only thing harder than winning a championship is doing it again in the very next season. Because you're not catching anyone by surprise. Everyone knows you're good. And the Denver Nuggets have gotten worse over the past 2 years. One of the reasons the Denver Nuggets didn't win the championship this year was very plainly they didn't have a guy off the bench like they did last year in Bruce Brown. Not having Bruce Brown off the bench, a scorer that can come in and give you 20 minutes of good bench minutes, was a loss this season. I get it. He got more money elsewhere. You have an owner that didn't want to go into the second apron, didn't want to spend as much money. I understand not everyone is the New York Knicks or the Phoenix Suns or insert big market team here with an owner that doesn't care about spending money. But even a bigger loss than Bruce Brown last year was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope this year. And the Denver Nuggets losing a guy that shoots 40% from three, a 31-year-old veteran, a championship player, a guy that has won in LA and a guy that has won in Denver. You can't let that guy go. You have to make sure that guy stays on your team, regardless what it does to your cap situation. You are now substituting a 40% three-point shooter like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was this year, and the splits Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was on, 46% from the field, 40% from three, and nearly a 90% free throw shooter. You're substituting Kentavious Caldwell-Pope out for Russell Westbrook, a 35-year-old, past his prime NBA player who is mostly better served coming off the bench, 45% from the field, 27% from three, and 68% from the free throw line. Russell Westbrook feels like a desperate move by the Denver Nuggets. Substituting a guy out in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who shot 46% from the field, 40% from three, and 90% from the free throw line, for a guy like Russell Westbrook who shoots 45% from the field, 27% from three, and 68% from the free throw line, is an insane move, and if anything, it's a step back for the Denver Nuggets. It's not even a lateral move. And you can't insert Russell Westbrook into this lineup. He will clog up the paint. What does Nikola Jokic do? Drive and kick. You can't have someone clogging up the lane like Russell Westbrook. The Denver Nuggets championship window might have closed with this addition. Losing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope a more than willing defender, a veteran with championship pedigree shooting 40% from the three-point line, works perfectly with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Adding Russell Westbrook to that fold and substituting Kentavious Caldwell-Pope out of that lineup, out of that rotation, that's insanity. That's a desperate move by the Denver Nuggets that are praying they get some prime, vintage Russell Westbrook moments to help counteract the fact that the Denver Nuggets just don't have a lot of shot makers. Nikola Jokic is a shot maker. Jamal Murray is a shot maker. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was a tough shot maker at times. Aaron Gordon is not a shot maker. He can get to the rim. He can pass the ball pretty well. Very good defender. But you're not asking him to continue to shoot 40% from three like you were in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. This Denver Nuggets team is swirling down the drain. It doesn't mean they're going to be awful, but it also pretty much takes them out of the question of a first or second seed in the Western Conference. The Denver Nuggets, if they have a, God forbid, injury to Jamal Murray or Nikola Jokic for a month, 2 months, they could be in some deep trouble. Because this team that was once deep and had a 5-man rotation that was easily the best in the NBA, I'm not so sure what top teams they're better than. I'd take the Minnesota Timberwolves. I might take the Dallas Mavericks right now. I'd take the Boston Celtics. Potentially would take the Philadelphia 76ers. I'd take the New York Knicks, potentially over the Denver Nuggets. That one's really close to me. It's not saying that they don't still have the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic. They might. Jamal Murray is awesome. But you need more shot makers on a championship contender. And getting rid of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope that shoots phenomenally from three, free throw line, and around the field. 45, 90, 40 splits. I guess I should say 45, 40, 90 splits. For a guy that's 44, 27, and 66 splits in Russell Westbrook, that's not even a lateral move. That's a step back. And a Denver Nuggets team that had one of the best rotations in basketball last year and 2 years ago was one of the deepest teams, it feels like a very desperate move to get a guy in Russell Westbrook praying he has some prime vintage Russell Westbrook moments on the bench. And everyone knows, every team that has had Russell Westbrook over the last 6 years knows, more Russell Westbrook is not the best version of Russell Westbrook. It's a guy that picks and chooses his spots and comes off the bench and gives you some supercharged, hard, willing minutes. Asking him to come in and be the first guy off your bench or potentially in the starting lineup en route to try to win an NBA championship, it just feels like a desperate move. You can't ask a guy who is a polar opposite to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to come in and help you win a championship. It doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense. And now, losing Bruce Brown 1 year, a very good come off the bench, give you 15 to 20 minutes a night of just pure scoring, and then losing the next year Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who works beautifully with Nikola Jokic, shooting 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line, and 45% from the field as a whole. For a guy in Russell Westbrook who's 45%, 27%, and 68% splits, that being field goals, three-point shot, and free throw, that is a swing and a miss and a desperate move by the Denver Nuggets, who are still trying to win a championship. This is the part in the program where I feel like I'm going to get some really angry, more specifically Philadelphia Eagles fans. Not just angry NFL fans, people with takes and like to cling on to those takes, but more specifically, the people in Philly. I am just out on the Philadelphia Eagles this year. This is a team with a lot of star power. A very star power, top-heavy team. A good offensive line, good wide receivers. I think I'm still on the Jalen Hurts boat. But last year, you had the issues of the secondary not being able to cover anyone. And now you're asking rookies to come in and really hunker down on that secondary when there is a real learning curve to cornerbacks and safeties in the NFL, especially in their first year. It doesn't matter how awesome they are. They still get got in a lot of scenarios because it's just a learning curve in the NFL. I wasn't a fan of the Saquon Barkley trade. Saquon Barkley and DeAndre Swift, look at their statistics. They're roughly the same player. And giving a bag of money to a running back always leads to some sort of disaster cap-wise. It's normally a cap casualty. So when you combine the defense, I'm still not sure about this year, and I didn't love the Saquon Barkley signing, I would have allocated that money to the back end of the defense and not a trophy that is a running back that could potentially get injured. We know Saquon Barkley's had some injury concerns in the past. And then finally, I see this report that last year Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts just didn't click. A disconnect in their relationship. I read it in the New York Times basically saying Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, they just don't mesh well. Two completely different personalities. And this is the part where I'll praise Jalen Hurts and just simply go after the incompetence that is Nick Sirianni. Jalen Hurts is an adult. Jalen Hurts makes it really easy to root for him. I think he throws the ball better than people give him credit for. He is a real dual threat quarterback, potentially one of the best in the NFL. He is a stocky kid, tough, hard to bring down. I love Jalen Hurts. Now, are there some deficiencies in his play? Yeah, he's not Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's not Josh Allen. Yeah, he's not Joe Burrow. So I'm not going to hold that entirely against him. I think he's an awesome quarterback. I think they paid him the fair amount of market value. Jalen Hurts, the one reason why I'm in on Jalen Hurts still, and why last year's down season doesn't super shake me any which way, is very plainly this. He had an injury last year. The knee injury is a real thing for a quarterback, especially when you're a dual threat guy like Jalen Hurts is. It's tough to be able to get your legs moving when your knee is jacked up. The offense wasn't the same it used to be. He had really missed Shane Steichen. But even more than any of that, I am in on Jalen Hurts because I watched him in the Super Bowl outplay Patrick Mahomes. Yes, the Chiefs won that Super Bowl, but for 3.5 quarters, Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes. So this isn't the Jalen Hurts hate video. I think he's a fine quarterback, a very good quarterback. My issue is with Nick Sirianni. He's a man-child. He is emotive. He's emotional. And when you have a real disconnect between the quarterback and the head coach, that almost always spills disaster in regular seasons. And this team, in the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, those are the head of your snake. And when I believe Nick Sirianni, or as I believe in Jalen Hurts, I just don't believe in Nick Sirianni. And the fact that the two leaders of the team, the head coach and Jalen Hurts, there was a disconnect last year, which was very plain to see, very easy to see. I don't know what you want me to say. Jalen Hurts is an adult, and he's a good quarterback. I like Jalen Hurts. Nick Sirianni's a man-child. He's emotional. He does things that I would never want my head coach to do. Cursing out Chiefs fans on the way out. doing things in the Super Bowl last year where Jalen Hurts has to calm him down, basically saying, yeah, let's not do that. When Nick Sirianni showed his hand last year into being a buffoon of a head coach that was clearly propped up by Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals and the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, he showed his hand. He is who he is. He was propped up by two superior coordinators, two superior head coaches, two guys that were just waiting for other teams to give them their opportunity. I'm in Arizona. I cover the Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon is a home run, and potentially even more of a home run than Jonathan Gannon, simply because he's an offensive guy. Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen, what he did with the Indianapolis Colts last year, deserved Coach of the Year, even though he didn't win it. And so when I see that the Eagles, and more specifically Jalen Hurts, the two heads of the snake, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, there was a disconnect last year that was palpable. You could see it. Nick Sirianni being an emotional man-child at times, going after Kansas City Chiefs fans, doing strange things, gesturing at the Super Bowl, and Jalen Hurts has to be the adult in the room. That's an issue. Compounding that with the Saquon Barkley signing that, look at the statistics, DeAndre Swift and Saquon Barkley were mostly the same player. Certainly, Saquon Barkley not worth the amount of money he got over DeAndre Swift when they could have just re-signed him and had virtually the same guy for less money, and not allocating the exorbitant amount of money that you spent on Saquon Barkley, which the running game was not an issue last year. Not using that money on the cornerback position and instead the running back position was just pure insanity. Asking for two rookies to come in and shore up your defense on the secondary side of the ball, that is a recipe for disaster. There's a learning curve in the NFL for secondary players, and more notably, cornerbacks. I'm just out on the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Last year was a debacle. And then when you take out Jason Kelce, when you put in the Saquon Barkley signing that I believe made no sense when you had DeAndre Swift there, and statistically they were roughly the same player, and you were paying DeAndre Swift half the money and not using that money that you had and you paid to Saquon Barkley to allocate to your cornerback and secondary, and instead throwing rookies at it and praying they don't hit a rookie learning curve that most defensive backs hit in their first year in the NFL. Compounding that with the disconnect that is being reported between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, and my eyes showing me that Nick Sirianni was propped up by Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, the two superb coordinators for the Eagles that went and got head coaching jobs. This Eagles team, with all the talent they have, they just feel a little dysfunctional. Will they make the playoffs? Maybe. They might. They have a lot of talent, and the talent just might get them there on its own. That's what happened last year. The talent just got them there. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, an elite offensive line, a pretty good pass rush. They should have got there. They might get there again this year because they have a lot of talent. But this team is not a true Super Bowl contender. And I wouldn't be surprised if they miss the playoffs as a whole next year. This team could be the surprise disappointment in the NFL because of all of their talent that they have. I just believe some of it is in the wrong places, and the disconnect between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts is real. And I'm not so sure how you can recover from that without bringing in a whole new head coach. So something that I'm not super excited for, because I'll be honest with you, I think it's important to be honest with your audience. Let them know where I stand. I cover the Phoenix sports landscape, and I believe my superpower in sports media, in sports talk, in podcasting, in opinions is I am able to take the fanboy glasses off. I'm able to see things for exactly what they are. I'm able to be unbiased, even if I hate it, and sometimes I do. I have to be honest with the team that I just grew up hating. I grew up hating the Los Angeles Lakers, but I've got to be honest. They might have found the steal of the draft. So there's two things here with the Los Angeles Lakers and in the Summer League as a whole. There's not much you can take from the Summer League, but I got to be honest. Dalton Connect is the real deal, averaging 21 points a game, 41% from the field. I guess that could be a little better, but again, it's a small sample size. And basically 40% from three and 81% from the free throw line. Granted, the free throws can be a little skewed because it's the Summer League. He hasn't gotten there a ton. Dalton Connect is awesome. And the Lakers might have gotten the steal of the draft. And if I'm being just completely honest with you, when I saw Dalton Connect was taken by the Los Angeles Lakers, I immediately rolled my eyes in disbelief because I knew right then and there they got the perfect guy for their team. Dalton Connect might be the fifth or fourth best Laker on this team at the end of the year. He's going to be a real playoff rotational piece. Now, can he be a star? I don't know. I'd probably lean towards no because he's a little bit older. He's a little bit at his ceiling potentially already, but his floor is very high. And when you're the Lakers, you don't necessarily need another star. Potentially he could be. I'm not ruling it out, but I'd probably lean towards no. But could he be a real rotational piece in the playoffs? Oh yeah, Dalton Connect can be. This is a scorer, and at times can fall asleep defensively a little bit, but it's not a big deal. He perfectly complements what the Lakers do. They've got guys that can defend. They'll be fine. They need a guy that can come off the bench and potentially at some point in the season be a starter and just knock down shots. The Lakers, here's was the biggest issue with them. They didn't have a lot of shot makers. D'Angelo Russell at times was. LeBron James clearly is. Anthony Davis is, but at times we know can be a little wishy-washy. He is more of an anchor defensively, and boy, am I really impressed with Anthony Davis on the USA men's basketball team. Adding Dalton Connect to this fold was a perfect add by the Los Angeles Lakers. Dalton Connect can hit shots like with the best of them. He is exactly what the Los Angeles Lakers needed. Another shot maker, and LeBron James, they kind of found a middle ground. What does LeBron James not really like to do? He's not a big fan of playing with younger players. He doesn't want to help them with the learning curve, which is fine. He's LeBron James. He wants to go win championships. He's not here to teach anyone whose name isn't Bronny James, who we'll get to in just a minute. But an older player, a senior, who's closer to his ceiling than probably a lot of the other players in this draft, is exactly what the Los Angeles Lakers needed. And I say it laughing because I'm frustrated. I didn't want this to happen. I would love to see the Lakers crash and burn. But I have to be honest. That's my superpower in the sports media realm. I can take the fanboy glasses off. I can be unbiased. Dalton Connect is that dude. He's going to be a real playoff rotational piece for this Lakers team. And picking a player in the draft is not just about talent. It's about fit. And he fits exactly what they do. No, he's not an elite defensive piece. I don't know if he ever will be. But he's a big player, and he's not going to be a complete liability defensively. And that's all the Lakers can ask on defense of Dalton Connect. Now, what he can be is be a shot maker for this team, especially in big moments. That's what they needed from D'Angelo Russell. That's what they needed from Rui Hachimura. And they're going to get that in Dalton Connect, a guy who's a little younger as well. It is a prime, perfect pickup for the Los Angeles Lakers, and I can't be more mad about it. Because I see this guy get drafted on draft night, and I'm like, dang it. That's exactly the kind of player that works with LeBron James. That's exactly the kind of player that is going to work for this Los Angeles Lakers team. So that was my first takeaway from the Summer League, is the Los Angeles Lakers got a dude in Dalton Knecht and is going to fit seamlessly for this roster, not just for now, but for years to come. He looks like a core rotational piece on a potential championship team, whether that's with the Lakers or someone else. That's exactly what Dalton Knecht is. Looks like a young, playoff rotational, dare I say championship rotational player with his elite shot-making ability and bigger frame. It's going to work in the NBA. And here's my second takeaway. This might be obvious, but I'm just going to state the obvious. And here's what I think when life and sports kind of coexist. Bronny James will never be a star in the NBA. Never will be. I'm not so sure Bronny James can ever be the sixth man off a bench. I don't know if Bronny can ever be just a mediocre player in the NBA. And here's why. I know he had a couple of good games this week. At times when I was watching the Lakers Summer League, and I've watched a lot of Lakers Summer League, more so than my team, because the Lakers just play at better times to be able to watch them, and I'm not really in a rush to watch future mailmen play basketball, and that's what a lot of the Summer League is. But the Los Angeles Lakers, and Bronny James specifically, I don't think it's ever going to work. And I don't mean to push the eject button on a 19-year-old because I'm not rooting against the person. My fandom has always been rooting against the Lakers. Bronny James, I'm not so sure is going to work. And here's why. A lot of these NBA players have to make it. A lot of them come from less than ideal backgrounds. A lot of them come from wanting to make it out, to not just for themselves, but for their family and future families. They want to be able to get to be the person to get their family out of whatever issue it is. And basketball has that. And for a lot of these players in the NBA, we know LeBron James didn't grow up rich. We know for every Steph Curry who did grow up rich, it's a lot of LeBron James and Kevin Durant's guys who grew up just wanting to get their family out of whatever issue they're in. They couldn't fail. So the only chance they had was making it to the NBA and getting their family out of whatever bad situation it was and being the caregiver for not just their family, but for years and families to come. There was no plan B for a lot of these NBA players. There was no, well, what's going to happen if I fail in the NBA? That wasn't an option. For Bronny James, kind of an option. It's not mandatory for Bronny James to be able to achieve whatever dream he has by making it in the NBA. His father is LeBron James. It's just like starting a business. It's exactly like starting a business. The ones that succeed are the ones that are 10,000% into it and don't have any safety net under them. And understand that the only way that they will succeed in life is if this works out. They have all the regs are in this basket. And you have to be a busy bee, and you have to understand that it is work, 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 and I'll sleep when I'm dead. And that's what we've seen. Apple started off in a garage. Now one of the biggest companies in the world. There was no real chance to fail. You couldn't do anything else but succeed. Bronny James, he can fail and he'll be fine. There's a safety net. He doesn't have to work that extra hour or put in that extra film sesh. He doesn't have to. His father is LeBron James. His dad is potentially the greatest basketball player of all time. If Bronny James falls flat on his face, he'll be just fine. His father is LeBron James. He'll be taken care of. And it's why these, call it what it is, why kids and companies don't always reach their full potential because their father's the CEO. And it's why I believe Bronny James will never reach his full potential. It's why I don't ever believe he'll be a sixth man. It's why I don't ever believe he'll be a star in the NBA. Every other star, superstar, mostly in the NBA, had no absolute chance to fail. If they failed, it was game over. They had nothing else but to succeed. They had no safety net under them. It was, if I don't succeed at basketball, what is going to happen to my family? It was, if I don't succeed in basketball, will my mother ever get out of the issues that she's in? Will my family ever make it out? There was no, it's okay if I fail. It was back against the wall, balls to the wall, work, dedication, grind. It's what drove Kobe. It's what drove LeBron. It's what drove Kevin Durant. It was, there's no plan B. I have to succeed for not just me, but the people around me. Bronny James doesn't have that. Bronny James doesn't have the doubt in his mind of, if I don't succeed in the NBA, what is going to happen to me and my future families? He'll be taken care of. His father is LeBron freaking James. And so I believe when you don't have that fire in your gut of, I can't fail, what's going to happen if I do fail? I think you already have. And when your back isn't against the wall, and when you can sleep at night knowing, if this doesn't work out, I'll be fine. Or if this doesn't work out, what's going to happen to my family? That's the issue for Bronny. And that's the reason why a lot of NBA star players' kids don't work in the NBA. Because they don't have the same drive as their father did. It's because they don't have the same willingness that their father did. It's because they don't have the same no, I can't fail idea in their brain. You have to just be wired differently in the NBA. You just have to be wired differently in sports. And when you have the option to fail, you pretty much already have. And LeBron James had no options to fail. He had to succeed. Kevin Durant had to succeed. Michael Jordan had to succeed. Bronny James doesn't have that. He doesn't have to succeed. There's no, it's okay if I fail. I'll be okay. Bronny James doesn't have that. And when you compound that with the lack of skill in the sport of basketball, it's just a real issue for Bronny James. And I think when you have that mindset, whether he knows he has it or not, you've already failed. So although I think Dalton Connect is going to be awesome, I just am genuinely out on Bronny James and his ability to succeed in the NBA. Because he has an option to fail. And his father didn't. And when you have that safety net, you just know, I don't have to work as hard. It'll all be fine for me anyways. And when you have that mentality, whether you admit it or not that you have that mentality, you've already failed. And that's where I'm at on Bronny James. Thanks so much for tuning into the Ben Garcia Show. We appreciate you making us a part of your day, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, for free on the iHeartRadio app. We appreciate you putting a face to the voice. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about the Ben Garcia Show. We appreciate you tuning in. I'll be back with you guys soon with some more sports topics and hot and heavy opinions on the sports world. I'm Benjamin Garcia, and it's been the Ben Garcia Show.